Welcome back, everyone. It's Mindy. In today's video, I am going to be creating 2 cards using the July Build-A-Flower Stamp Set from Altenew, and that is the Camellia Japonica. Now, I apologize if I butchered that name. I love to color and ink flowers. I am just not good with names. This is a closer look at the stamp set. You can see it is a large stamp set. It has 4 layering images on it and also 2 different leaf images that you can use, and those have 3 layers, plus also some sentiments. Now, also with the Altenew stamp sets, you get this packet, which is very resourceful, and I use it a lot throughout the video, off on the side, and also when I had started stamping. It has a lot of information in there, how to stamp your images. It gives examples. So when you open it up, it tells you the ink colors that they use. They give you lots of different examples, how you can layer these images up, what other images they use to create those cards. There's also some inserts, and I actually had cut these out. Now, these are great if you need a quick card and just don't have a minute to stamp anything out. You can cut these, add them to a card front, and use those for cards as well. So not only inspiration, but great to have on hand in a pinch. Now on the back of that, it also shows you the layers. And then there is a coordinating die that you can purchase as well. Now I'm going to start stamping my image. What I wanted to show you here is Altenew has the layers numbered. There's A1, A2, A3, and A4, and I love this. I honestly have always struggled with matching up layers, or finding which layers go next. So I am just loving that they have numbered these for me. They really make stamping so easy for us. I'm also going to be using a lot of their sets of inks. I do have a few, I don't have all, but I do really love their inks because they make layering that much easier for you. So I'm actually going to be starting off with the Iceberg ink. This is the lightest ink out of the LAPIS LAZULI collection. Again, sorry if I said it wrong, but I will have all of the information linked down below in my video description and on my blog as well. So I stamped that first layer out. My stamp set is really nice and conditioned, so I do get a really good first impression the first time stamping it. This is the lightest layer, like I said, Iceberg. And I'm using a large sheet of Neenah Solar White cardstock. I am using 110 pound because I do like my floral images pretty thick when I cut them out. So that way I can also get a couple images out of this piece of cardstock. I just turn that and then I can stamp them both because they'll already be lined up perfectly. Now for the second layer, I'm referencing the guide that they provide, and there's little lines in there that show you what to match up with. So I'm actually matching up the top section of that flower, matching up those edges. The next color I'm going to use is Eastern Sky, and these are such gorgeous blues. I love layering these colors. And then I can just turn my paper. It's already in the same spot that I need, and I can just stamp it again. And I am actually stamping a third one off camera as well. Next, I'm going with A3 on that stamp layering guide, looking at the third layer we'll be putting on and matching up those little key points that they tell you. And I'm using a MISTI. You can use whatever stamping platform you want, or using acrylic blocks. I just personally find it a lot easier to use my MISTI tool to do this. So that third color is Ultramarine, a really nice deep blue. And then once I have that stamped, I can bring in that final layer, the A4. And once I line those key points up, I'll come in with Azurite. And it's just absolutely gorgeous how these come together and are so realistic looking. So now I am speeding through, but I did do a yellow set. And for this one, it's the Golden Sunrise collection. That is, Sunray is the lightest color. That was my base. Chamomile was the second layer. Snapdragon the third. And Marigold is the fourth. So I just wanted to pop that in and show you how those colors came together real quick. And then I'm using one of the leaf images I'm going to show you here, but I do stamp it multiple times because I did use a lot of leaves on my 2 cards today. Now for the leaves, I do actually stamp these in 2 different colors. This one I'm starting off, it's the Green Valley collection, and I only use 3 colors out of that. I'm using Firefly, Grass Field, and Shadow Creek. And I, like I said, do that multiple times. I use a lot of 2 different greens. And then I am going to come in and stamp some in a different shade, and this is going to be from the Tropical Forest collection. That has a bamboo, parrot, and olive are the colors that I use. Then I can just take the coordinating die and I'll line those up and hold those in place with some purple tape, and I'll use my Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine to cut all of those images out. Now I have my images die cut out, so I have 3 flowers and a handful of leaves. I'm going to work on a background, so I'm keeping this one pretty simple. And I'm starting with some azurite ink. I'm just going to smear that down onto my glass mat. I'm going to just create kind of a speckled background. Then I'm taking the Altenew shimmer spray. This is an iridescent. There is like a metal ball down there that you need to shake it up to get everything mixed. Otherwise it can settle. So you want to shake that up a little bit. And then I'm just going to spritz that down onto that mat. I'll mix it together with my paintbrush, and I'm going to flick this mixture onto my background. You can tap your brush, you can use an acrylic block. I love using the acrylic block. It gives me a lot of fine speckles. And then I'm going to do the same thing with another ink out of that collection. Now this one was pretty light, and when you mix it with the iridescent shimmer spray, it does lighten these colors up a bit. I wanted something a little bit more bold and drastic, so I brought that azurite back in, spritzed just plain water down, and I'm going to flick that onto the background. Now, like I said, using the block, I am getting a lot of fine speckles, and I wanted them bigger. I wanted bolder speckles, so I just tapping the brush, and I'm finally achieving the look that I wanted. Then I did go ahead and line up where my flowers and my leaves were going to go, starting with the furthest image back, so my leaves. I'm just attaching those to my card base with some Connect glue and my tweezers. And I'll do the same thing with the flowers, starting with the one furthest in the back. And for my last one, I'm going to add some Gina K Designs foam squares just to pop that up a little bit for some dimension. And then I'll trim off any of the leaves that may have maybe overhanging a little bit. This is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base that I'm using, just on some Nina Solar White cardstock. And I need to add a sentiment. So there are 2 different ones that you can use. The main one says delightful, and then you can kind of mix up which beginning part you want to have. I'm going to keep it simple and just do both the same, that are you are just delightful. I'm using the Altenew Obsidian black ink, beautiful black ink. I didn't quite get it inked up well enough. That's why I had to stamp it a couple times on here. And then adding that little sentiment on the top. So I trim that down into just a nice rectangle shape. I'll put some foam squares just on the bottom of that and then liquid glue a little bit at the top. That is going to make it so it's flush with my flower that I added the foam squares to. So I can remove the backing of that adhesive or those foam squares and just attach that right to the card front. So really simple card actually to put together, but beautiful. And then I just added a few jewels on there for some sparkle. Now here is my first card I actually created a couple weeks ago, and I believe I just used a different blue collection, but they're both so beautiful. I love them both. Now for my next card, where I'm using the yellow flowers, we're going to get a little bright and bold on this one. I'm bringing in the Kaleidoscope A stencil. I'm spraying that with some pixie spray. This is just a really nice low tack adhesive that'll help stick your stencil down to the cardstock. I do typically spray mine over my garbage can and then just kind of cover my nose with my shirt. It's odorless. I love it. It has such a great low tack to help with those fine lines of the stencil. And then I can just hold the edges in place with some purple tape. That's just so my paper doesn't move around when I'm ink blending. Now for the ink blending, I'm going to be using the Rose Petal collection, just a few of the colors. I skipped the lightest color and I'm starting with Puffy Heart. I'm doing that ink blending from the center working out, and then I'll come in with a little bit darker of a color, and that's going to be Purple Wine. And for that one, I'm going to go around all of the edges and I'll bring it in just a little bit, just enough to ink blend into that Puffy Heart. But I don't want to go all the way in. I wanted it to start out lighter in the middle and then just gradually get darker. Then I also come in with Cosmic Berry, and Cosmic Berry is pretty bright, pretty bold, and you can't really tell how bold it is until you remove the stencil, but I love it because I just love bright, in-your-face colors. Just kind of my style. So I go all the way around that edge, blending in a little bit to that Purple Wine. Then I can remove the stencil and we have this beautiful bright background. Now I thought it was just a little bit too bright for me with those stark white lines, so I'm just going to actually come back in with those same colors and just real lightly blend over those white lines. That just kind of helps tone that background down a little bit. And then once I finish that, I'm going to come in and I do go ahead and attach my flowers to the background just using the liquid glue. I had already pre-lined them up where I wanted them to go, and I just had them flush on the cardstock, no dimension on them, but I did add foam tape to my sentiment, which I'll put right in the middle of that card. And then just finished it off with a few jewels for the sparkle, and I love that color combination and the brightness of it. Now this is one I created a few weeks ago. You can see I did get a little heavy-handed this time around, but I think they're both still great. Now here are a few extra cards that I did make with this stamp set. This one I had ink blended a background. I used Lagoon and Ultramarine, and then I had spritzed it with the iridescent spray. So it's got a really gorgeous shine to it. And then the next card here, this one's pretty crazy, but typically what I do when I first get a stamp set with layers is I do them in a ton of colors just to practice it, see what I like best. And I had all these extras. I decided to make them into a card, so they didn't go to waste. And then I just used the Mega Thanks die to add to the front of the card. These cards are also part of a blog hop that's going on right now, so go ahead and head over to my blog to check that out. I hope you enjoyed the inspiration today. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so and would like to see more videos from me. Thanks again for stopping by. I'll see you next time.